Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So, just a couple of days ago, I did get a couple of figures in. Well, a few figures from Major Bendies, Big Rubber Guys. And I believe this is still classified as part of Series 10 from the Big Rubber Guys collection. So, just a few days ago, the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast did release on their Facebook page a massive outline of all of the figures that they've released, not only from their 8-inch collection, but from sort of their kickboxer set, and who else did they release? Kickboxer, Rambo, and there was something. Oh, their baseball line. That's what it was. So the only baseball line I could actually remember seeing was Randy Savage with their Cincinnati Reds, but I think there was a couple other baseball releases as well. They must have been like some kind of like Comic-Con release or something, some crap like that. I don't know, because I've only seen Macho Man advertised. I haven't seen the other two, but they did come out with a general breakdown of every single release thus far. So if you check out either my Facebook page or if you check out my community page on YouTube, I did post that screenshot for you guys. So if you are missing any figures, it gives you a general idea of what's been produced thus far. So today, 3 new figures released, which includes Bad News Brown and both members of Rock and Roll Express. So, what's pretty freaking incredible about these particular figures, which includes, of course, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. So, I always got to kind of read off the names because I know them as Rock and Roll Express. I don't really know them by their individual name. A lot of the times, unless it's guys I really grew up with, like Rockers, for example, and we'll dive into the Rockers shortly. Like, I grew up with the Rockers in the late 80s, early 90s, right? So I will always know Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. With the Rock and Roll Express, they were there, but they weren't anything I was like really into. So, but it's kind of interesting because, like, when you look at the Rock and Roll Express, right? One blonde guy, one brunette, Rock and Roll Express, kind of like this sort of grungy look set of characters, right? These, well, rock and roll dudes. So when you look at these guys, if you were born mid 80s into maybe the early 90s, who do these guys remind you of? The Rockers, right? So in the 1980s, mid 1980s, the Midnight Rockers of the AWA were actually based on the Rock and Roll Express. So, Rock and Roll Express, these guys started off in the early 1980s, around, I want to say 1980, 81, I think. If I recall correctly, I think they were like a Memphis-based tag team set, so a tag team group. And so they worked in Memphis. That's where I think they started off, Mid-South. Moved on to other groups like Jimmy Crockett, things like that. You know, NWA, of course, AWA. Everybody went through AWA. That's not even a question. NWA/WCW, and dudes, they had literally the exact same backstory that the Rockers had in the 90s. And I'm wondering if literally that's where Vince McMahon came up with the whole separating the Rockers, is literally which one of these transpired first, if the Rockers had the breakup, or if the Midnight Rocker, if the Rockers had that breakup, or the Rock and Roll Express had their breakup first, because they literally had the same story. And when we talk about the Rockers breakup, it's Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty, right? It's giving him, the super kick and throwing him through the barbershop window. Well, that was, what was that? That was February 1991. So, I don't know, that was January 91. So, that was approximately a month before my 6th birthday. or was it January 92 before my 7th birthday? I can never get the damn months correctly. Whatever. Irrelevant. But Rock and Roll Express, these guys were nearly 10-time champions. So I think they won the tag team titles around 8 or 9 times. So one of the most successful tag teams of all time, right? And here's the thing. In the early 90s, maybe, they were losing their swag a little bit. So what ended up happening? Ricky Morton ends up turning heel. And Rock and Roll Express break up. That was around, I believe, 1991. So, of course, they eventually do reignite and turn back into the Rock and Roll Express, and about a year or so later in '92, and reform their tag team. So it's not like Shawn Michaels, who went on to have this long, storied individual career, highly successful Hall of Fame individual career, but it's basically the same type of storyline. The Rockers were basically formed or created in comparison to these guys. They sort of had the same falling out in comparison. So I just think that's pretty awesome, right? I mean, even when you look at guys like Hulk Hogan, even Hulk Hogan kind of looks like superstar Billy Graham, kind of. So even Kevin Sullivan is one of those guys that kind of gives you that appearance that kind of looks like Hulk Hogan. So there are a lot of people out there that remind you of different superstars. But enough backstory, whatnot. Let's look at the figures themselves. Let's look at Morton. Now, each of these figures, they do come with their own respective championship belts. And it does say World Wrestling Champions on the belt. It is a nice, solid plastic. The gold on the belt isn't fading, isn't coming off, isn't chipping, which is solid. Yeah, nice thick hard plastic or hard rubber. So these are beautiful, beautiful championship belts. And you can keep them with your big rubber guys. If you have collect random treasure figures, you can switch them over to those figures, or you can use them for your regular LJN figures if you choose. But why would you want to do that, right? Keep them with your big rubber guys. That way you keep them with the figures that they originally came with. For Morton, I mean, play pose is adequate. The way that the arms are kind of separated, it's a fine play pose. The arms are out far enough to throw good clotheslines and body slams and whatnot. It's not quite like Junkyard Dog-ish, but the arms are separated enough. They're not super low, and they're like way up there, way high. So it's a good serviceable play pose. It's got the Jimmy Snuka hands, right? You would think Hasbro, Jimmy Snuka, with the way the hands are open. I hate that, but it's fine. It's a serviceable look. And overall, when you look at the clothing and accessories, right, the overall look of it is a perfectly fine figure. Aesthetically, this could be a top 10 best figure. Play pose, does it hurt the figure? Does it take it out of the top 10? I don't know. I don't think so. It says Rock and Roll down the legs. I think with Ricky Morton, I think they did an excellent job with this piece. So, this one was really solid all around. So, Ricky Morton is your Shawn Michaels, right? That leaves you with Bob Gibson. Of course, when I hear the name Bob Gibson, my first thought is, Cardinals, starting pitcher Bob Gibson, legend, Hall of Famer, ERA king. But no, Robert Gibson, he is like your Shawn Michaels type, or Shawn Michaels, your Marty Jannetty type. He is the brunette of the group. And another incredible piece, right? With another championship belt. And I like that they swapped up the colors. That way you're not getting two same black shirts or two same white shirts. So mixing it up just a bit, kind of offsetting it. So I love that aspect. So I think that was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I know that this was back here with Cardona and Myers was Series 10, right? So I was still thinking that maybe Macho Man and Danhausen was still part of Series 10. But I looked it up today, or I looked it up when I got the figures, and they were classifying Bad News Brown and Rock and Roll Express as Series 10, and I'm like, well, that can't be right. Because, why, again, this is why these cards are starting to be really confusing for me. In the beginning, it was awesome because they kept them all in order. But then when they started releasing all of these figures out of order, it just made things so frustrating, right? For a collector and for sequential order. Legion of Doom. It's a Big Bad Toy Stores exclusive, not a Major Bendies exclusive. Why would you even put them on here at that point? But I still classify them as Major Bendies. So, haven't even got my Earl Hebner yet. I haven't gotten my Rick Martel. Haven't got my Hebner. Haven't gotten. I keep forgetting the Hyatt. I haven't gotten her yet. So there's still a number of figures that are still due in, but those are a couple. The aesthetics of this is amazing. Play pose is obviously is terrible. So because I'm a fight pose first guy, we'll start with that. I think that this right here makes this arguably one of, from a play pose standpoint, probably one of Major Bendy's worst, I would say. Probably top 5, maybe top 8 worst play pose figures. Aesthetic-wise, is it one of the greater figures? Yes. Designs, again, play pose is just one aspect that you're looking for in these action figures, right? When you look at the overall graphics, like, look at the graphical detail of the t-shirt, the design. That is gorgeous. The sculpt and design that go into the clothing and the boots, that brings this figure up immensely. Gives it percentage points higher. We're not wrestling these figures. These are artwork. They're focal points, they're discussion points. That's basically what they are, right? If we were kids, like if I was 6 years old, 7 years old, and I was wrestling this, I would not have enjoyment with this as a playable wrestling figure. There's a reason in these cards why they say adults or why they say 18 plus, etc., right? Because you're not designing these based on play for children. I always understand that, and that's why I highlight that concept every time I make these reviews. But every time I make these reviews, I always sidetrack back to being that 5-year-old kid, being that 8-year-old kid, etc. And, sitting down and playing wrestling figures, or however you describe it. You want to have that play pose because it's what you're familiar with. And even though you're not sitting down wrestling them, it's a fun aspect when you look at these things. So, play pose, it's the one thing I look for more than anything. Not good at all on this, but everything else is incredible. And that championship belt just makes it all the better. The only downside is the belt is so big, right? And when you put the championship belt on, it covers all of that beautiful graphical detail. So you lose a lot of the artwork. And I'm not going to sit there and drape it over his shoulder or anything like that, right? So where's it going to go? It's going to be wrapped around his waist. And you're going to lose the express, and you're most likely going to lose probably the rock and roll part of the t-shirt. Yeah, see? You try to make it nice and tight, you're going to lose the writing, and you're going to basically lose most of their face. So, but let's get back to it. Try and show you all of the artwork. For the figures. Before we take a look at our last figure. And you know what, guys? I know for like Ram Treasures, people for the last few years have been like hammering down, hey man, we need Rock and Roll Express. When is Ram Treasures going to create Rock and Roll Express? Well, luckily, you don't have to get Ram Treasures to create these guys. They don't need to. Big Rubber Guys has already made Rock and Roll Express. Now Ram Treasures can focus on making someone else that doesn't already exist out in the world. And these things are incredible. So, really excited about that one. Last piece is Bad News Brown. So, in 1989, when Grand Toys purchased the rights to LJN and moved everything to Canada, right? One of the things on the back of that black card was supposed to be a release of Bad News Brown. Bad News Brown, Demolition Smash. You're supposed to get Brother Love. You were supposed to get the Bushwhackers. And you were supposed to get Powers of Pain Barbarian. Now, it just said Powers of Pain. They had already released Warlord, but where was your Barbarian figure? It never happened. A few years ago, Ram XOX Customs by Ram Treasures on Etsy, they released all of those characters that you never got back in 1989, but they were custom figures, right? Well, Bad News Brown from Ram Treasures, it had very soft rubber, it had that arm up pose, which I didn't like. So when Big Rubber Guys came out with their own version of Bad News Brown, I'm like, okay, I hear you. You know, you're getting at this great character. Maybe they can improve a little bit on the Ram Treasures custom. Get a licensed figure in, maybe something a little bit harder rubber. And then we got this in. You know, we all saw the picture, so we knew what the figure was going to look like. So it's not like it's a surprise, but still getting it in. You're glad to have a Bad News Brown for the collection, right? But unfortunately, it's not anything that like gets you like crazy excited. Bad News Brown, he is like one of those characters that like I always look forward to getting, because I don't know, he just has that sort of unique attitude. He kind of reminds me of Zeus to an extent. And, you know, Zeus from No Holds Barred. I just love his attitude and his overall demeanor in the ring, right? And over the last couple of years, go back and like watching YouTube and watching like his podcast interviews or you know, just basically interviews in general. His personality, it's like so much in tune with my own. Like, you know, I don't care about going out winning all these titles and all that. You know, just pay me, let me take care of my family. That's what I care about. And I'm like, right on. I respect that. You know, you need me to put somebody over, let's do it. I'm here to earn a paycheck. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. And you know what? Let me go do my job. Let me go home to my family. That's what's up right there. So, huge fan of Bad News Brown. I watched him obviously a little bit as a kid, but not enough to have like the most glaring, you know, memories and have like the biggest support in the world. But as an adult, you know, obviously huge fan. his figure leaves much to be desired. Now, Bad News Brown, it's not like he had like all of this color and design you can really, choose from, right? Guys like this, there is a lot of information, a lot of color and detail that go into their looks. But when you look at guys like, Greg Valentine, for example, or Bad News Brown, all they have is black boots, black trunks. It's a very simple, plain figure. So there's not much more that can go into their look other than this. So it's very simple, very plain. So, since there's not anything graphically or design-wise that can improve the figure, it really is the play pose. The play pose is really that's going to make the figure unique. That's going to make the figure stand out. And unfortunately, this is horrendous. I think that the Bad News Brown is arguably probably right next to Ethan Page among Major Bendy's worst big rubber guy figures. Is it going to display beautifully on the shelf? No doubt about it. Am I glad to have this Bad News Brown? Of course. Would I buy this figure again? 100 times out of 100. But could this have been made so much better? Absolutely. I do like this freaking rat that they include in these packages. Like, I mean, it's a little bit rubbery. I mean, the tail moves a little bit, but that thing is pretty damn big. Check that out. That damn thing has like massive, gnarly teeth, man. Shoot. How am I going to have him hold this? Or where am I going to have him hold this? How is he holding it in the package? Alright, so he's holding it left hand. Like a little baby. That's it. I don't know, Davey. I kind of feel like that's going to pop out over time. Alright. But like maybe if the hand wasn't like, because it's think about like Ron Simmons, right? Now think about Ron Simmons' Galoob with the hand fused to the chest. I mean, his hand is not fused all the way to the chest. I mean, it's sticking out a shade. Now, if this hand was more out like so, and was an actual playable figure, because this hand out like here, I mean, it's even the way it's situated, the left arm is still a serviceable, fighting, playable arm. You could still work with this. But the right arm is basically unusable. What is this? Like a elbow drop only? So this hurts the figure big time. Otherwise, this would be a solid overall piece. But if you just made the right arm an actual fightable, playable, this would be a good figure. So this one, not excellent. I wouldn't say horrendous, but I mean, I would, if I was doing a countdown of some of Big Rubber Guy's worst figures, yeah, I think Ethan Page would either be number one, number two, whichever one Ethan Page wasn't. So if Ethan Page was number two, this would probably be the worst one. And that hurts because, like I said, I like Bad News Brown a lot. But I feel like a lot of these companies that are making Bad News Brown figures, they're not doing him justice whatsoever. Zombie Sailors, they came out with their Bad News Brown figure, and they made probably the worst action figure known to man with their Bad News. And now Big Rubber Guys came out with their Bad News Brown, and they probably released their worst figure ever. So it is capable of, Ram Treasures. Ram Treasures, they've made, 70, 80 figures. Bad News Brown with them isn't bad. I mean, he has one good working arm, the other one being straight up. It's a functional figure, but I mean, I would probably argue that would probably be in their top 10, top 15 among their worst figures. So I don't know what it is about Bad News. He just can't get the sort of love that I think he deserves. But hopefully, this is something that a lot of people get a kick out of. Hopefully, for those who've been waiting, these figures will start rolling in, and you guys can get your figures pretty soon. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. So I think that's it. I don't know if I have any more space to put BRGs on this shelf anymore. And at this stage, I don't know if I'm going to be collecting 2 sets anymore. So I'm obviously going to still buy them, but I might only buy 1 set from this point forward and just open up the package and put the loose package on the shelf and just keep the loose figure on the shelf. I don't know. Because it's getting expensive, so I can't keep going 2 sets every single time for every single figure. That's just crazy. But that's it for this review, guys. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. Take care, everybody.